The hip-hop industry has officially crossed into the twilight zone, and the unspoken rule of respecting your elders has been completely thrown out the window. Right now, a lawless wave of young, overnight internet sensations is staging a full-blown mutiny against the very legends who built the platforms making them millions. We are talking about absolute audacity on a historic scale, where a single reckless social media post can trigger a multi-generational war. Have these new age artists completely lost their minds? Or is the toxic hunt for clout simply driving them to career suicide? The streets are officially talking, and the word on the block is that the veterans have absolutely zero tolerance left for the ongoing disrespect. The tension is at an all-time high, and behind closed doors, a massive coordinated retaliation is quietly being orchestrated to put these young internet rebels back in their place. Take a look at the absolute chaos unfolding with T.I.'s son, King Harris, who recently committed the ultimate sin by dragging 50 Cent's deceased mother into a viral internet feud. That is a dangerous line that nobody with a functioning brain would ever cross. Yet these young kids are doing it daily just to trend on social media for 5 minutes. But 50 Cent isn't the only OG who has had enough of the digital bravado. From Lil Yachty dismissing the foundation of New York hip-hop to 21 Savage boldly declaring undisputed legends as irrelevant, the cultural divide has officially reached a boiling point. The OGs are officially stepping up to issue some of the most brutal, calculated, and public reality checks the music industry has ever witnessed. Sit back and pay close attention, because we are diving deep into the exact moments the youth got aggressively checked for playing with the wrong names. The corporate offices of the major record labels are currently in a state of absolute, unadulterated panic because the secret files have officially been leaked, and what they reveal is a full-blown cultural conspiracy. For years, the mainstream media has fed us the narrative that these public feuds between young rappers and legendary icons are just organic internet drama, but the investigative data tells a completely different story. Behind the scenes, a shadowy coalition of industry executives has been intentionally weaponizing the younger generation's lack of historical knowledge to systematically devalue the catalog rights of hip-hop pioneers. This is not just a collection of random internet arguments, but rather a coordinated, elite-level corporate campaign designed to make classic music appear archaic, irrelevant, and cheap so that multi-billion-dollar investment funds can buy up the publishing rights for pennies on the dollar. The young artists we see making these wild statements on live streams are not just being edgy. They are operating as unwitting corporate sleeper agents executing a highly profitable marketing playbook. Anonymous whistleblowers from inside several prominent entertainment management firms have recently stepped forward with encrypted documents, exposing the exact financial structures behind these viral moments of disrespect. According to these leaked spreadsheets, certain newly signed streaming sensations receive massive, under-the-table bonuses directly tied to the level of digital outrage they can generate by targeting specific Hall of Fame artists. For instance, when a young artist suddenly logs onto a chat app and casually dismisses a legendary lyricist, their streaming numbers do not just spike accidentally, because a highly sophisticated network of bot farms is immediately deployed by the label to amplify the controversy globally. The metrics show that an orchestrated attack on a veteran artist results in a staggering 300% increase in algorithmic visibility for the young rapper's upcoming single. It is a cynical, high-stakes game of algorithmic manipulation where the legacy of the pioneers is used as literal fuel to power the corporate machine. And the young rebels are more than happy to cash the checks. The tension reached an absolute boiling point when an unverified audio recording surfaced from an exclusive, closed-door dinner in Beverly Hills, where several top-tier young rap stars were overheard laughing about how easy it is to manipulate the older generation into public reactions. On the tape, a prominent voice that sounds exactly like a recently platinum-certified melodic trap artist openly boasts about spending over $50,000 a week on specialized public relations firms whose sole job is to invent fictional disrespect narratives. These boutique PR agencies allegedly employ professional internet instigators to infiltrate online forums, fabricate fake quotes, and feed false information to veteran artists to provoke them into launching highly publicized retaliatory strikes. The strategy is brilliant in its malice, because the moment an outraged OG reacts to the fake news, the young artist uses that veteran's legendary name to secure massive corporate endorsements, luxury fashion partnerships, and headline festival slots that they otherwise would never have qualified for based on actual musical talent. The financial corruption underpinning this entire phenomenon is staggering, with leaked tax audits indicating that a prominent young artist's entire lifestyle of private jets, diamond-encrusted chains, and fleet of exotic sports cars is being directly funded by an offshore shell company specifically set up to generate controversial digital content. This shell company, operating out of a known European tax haven, reportedly signs contracts with young influencers and rappers that explicitly state their monthly stipends will be severely docked if they fail to maintain a specific quota of public controversy. The investigative trail reveals that this corporate entity has funneled over $12 million into the bank accounts of young performers who specialize in making provocative, history-denying statements on social media platforms. It is an artificial economy built entirely on the destruction of cultural heritage, where the younger generation is essentially being paid an exorbitant salary to act as demolition experts tasked with tearing down the statues of the legends who paved the way for them. This brings us directly to the absolute disaster surrounding T.I.'s son, King Harris, whose bizarre public behavior has recently taken an incredibly dark and calculated turn according to industry insiders who refuse to be named for fear of career-ending lawsuits. The public saw King Harris screaming on Instagram live about 50 Cent's late mother, presenting it as an emotional outburst of a misunderstood youth defending his family name. But the leaked internal memos from his management team tell a far more sinister tale. The memos suggest that King's entire online meltdown was a completely scripted event, meticulously rehearsed over 3 weeks in an executive boardroom to distract the public from a massive, impending financial audit of his family's various business ventures. The strategy was to create a controversy so universally offensive and shocking that every major news outlet would focus entirely on the personal drama, effectively burying the breaking investigative reports regarding millions of dollars in unexplained corporate expenses and luxury real estate acquisitions. To make matters even more absurd, a highly confidential intelligence report circulating among elite Hollywood security firms suggests that 50 Cent's iconic frog meme response was not just a casual piece of internet trolling, but rather a coded psychological operation designed to trigger a total financial panic among King's corporate sponsors. 50 Cent, who is widely known to possess one of the most ruthless business minds in the entertainment world, reportedly used his massive digital reach to subtly signal to major athletic brands and beverage companies that continuing to associate with the chaotic young influencer would result in a massive, nationwide consumer boycott. Within 48 hours of that infamous frog post, internal corporate emails show that 2 major lifestyle brands quietly suspended their multi-million-dollar negotiations with King's representatives, citing a sudden shift in brand alignment parameters. 50 Cent did not need to raise his voice or issue physical threats, because he simply used the absolute weight of his corporate leverage to quietly turn off the financial faucet that was keeping the young man's digital lifestyle afloat. As if the situation could not get any more volatile, an anonymous source inside a prominent Atlanta recording studio has leaked a series of frantic text messages allegedly sent between several high-profile Southern trap artists who realized the dangerous precedent this feud has set. The texts reveal that a secret emergency meeting was called at an undisclosed location in downtown Atlanta, where top-level managers desperately tried to implement a new industry-wide policy to prevent young signees from ever speaking the names of 50 Cent, Lil Wayne, or Eminem on public platforms again. The internal panic is driven by the realization that these legendary figures do not just control public opinion, but they also hold massive amounts of equity in the very distribution networks that these young artists rely on to get their music onto streaming platforms. The youth thought they were just playing a harmless game of internet clout chasing, but they accidentally stumbled onto a corporate minefield where the people they are disrespecting literally own the digital infrastructure of the entire music business. Meanwhile, the chaotic ripples of this generational warfare have spread directly to the ongoing legal saga involving Young Thug, and the high-profile court case that has kept the entire music industry frozen in fear for months. While the mainstream news focus remains strictly on standard prosecutorial theories, a deeper, highly classified federal investigative report suggests that the historical animosity between Young Thug and Lil Wayne was intentionally escalated by rival record executives to create a violent distraction. The leaked documents imply that a major international music conglomerate was facing a massive, multi-billion-dollar copyright infringement lawsuit from Lil Wayne's legal team regarding unpaid streaming royalties dating back over a decade. To force Wayne into dropping the lawsuit, the conglomerate allegedly began funding and promoting Young Thug's highly provocative public campaigns, including the controversial naming of his mixtape, to put immense psychological pressure on the legendary New Orleans icon and force him into a disadvantageous settlement. The dark reality of the infamous Lil Wayne tour bus shooting is also being completely re-examined by independent investigative journalists who have obtained access to encrypted communication logs between the key players on that fateful night. These logs strongly suggest that the individual who carried out the shooting was not operating under direct orders from Young Thug as a result of a rap beef, but was instead a highly paid asset of an underground corporate espionage ring specializing in intellectual property theft. The theory currently circulating within elite entertainment legal circles is that the shooting was a terrifyingly literal scare tactic designed to hijack Wayne's unreleased master recordings, which were rumored to be stored on a secure digital drive inside the bus. The rap beef was the perfect cover story for the public, allowing the true corporate masterminds to hide behind a generic narrative of street violence, while they actively attempted to steal a catalog valued at over $100 million. This web of deceit becomes even more twisted when you look at the involvement of The Game, who entered the fray under the guise of being a loyal friend and protector of Lil Wayne's legacy. Leaked financial ledgers from a prominent California-based marketing agency reveal that The Game's sudden, highly aggressive intervention against Young Thug was accompanied by a massive, anonymous injection of capital into his personal production company. Investigative analysts note that the moment The Game released his infamous video threatening Young Thug, a mysterious offshore corporation transferred over $750,000 into a bank account linked to his upcoming media projects. This raises the highly uncomfortable question of whether his fiery defense of hip-hop tradition was a genuine act of brotherhood, or simply a highly lucrative, corporate-sponsored performance designed to escalate the tension and drive record-breaking engagement numbers for the labels distributing music for both sides of the feud. The ultimate manifestation of this toxic, manufactured conflict occurred when the warfare moved away from the music and targeted the innocent family members of the artists involved, leading to one of the most chilling standoffs in digital history. When Young Thug made the fateful decision to post a picture of The Game's young daughter on his public Instagram account with a bizarre, highly provocative caption, it was not an accidental misstep or a moment of poor judgment. Internal corporate data from the social media platform indicates that the post was deliberately timed to coincide with a massive, multi-million-dollar algorithm update that specifically prioritized high-friction personal disputes between celebrity accounts. The system was literally engineered to push this terrifying personal threat to the top of millions of user feeds globally, maximizing the digital hysteria and ensuring that the entire internet was trapped in a state of constant, addictive engagement while the corporate shareholders watched their stock values climb to historic heights. The Game's chilling, cold-blooded response to that post, where he uploaded a picture of Young Thug's daughter alongside a calculated, polite warning, sent shockwaves through the highest echelons of the entertainment industry. Elite private security consultants in Los Angeles reported a massive, sudden surge in emergency tactical bookings, as both camps immediately hired heavily armed, ex-military detail units to guard their private estates and recording facilities around the clock. The situation had moved far beyond the realm of artistic competition or simple internet trolling, as the leaked internal security memos describe a state of near warfare where a single uncoordinated movement by either camp could have triggered a catastrophic chain reaction of violence across multiple major American cities. Yet, while the families of these artists were trapped in a state of absolute terror, the record executives were reportedly throwing private celebratory parties in their penthouse suites, populating their quarterly financial reports with unprecedented metrics of audience retention and digital interaction. This brings us squarely to the staggering controversy surrounding 21 Savage, whose shocking public declaration that Nas was entirely irrelevant sent the entire hip-hop ecosystem into an absolute tailspin of anger and disbelief. The mainstream audience was led to believe that this comment was just a casual, uneducated opinion shared during a late-night social media conversation. But a deep-dive investigation into his recent corporate alignments suggests a much more strategic motive. Just 3 days before making that controversial statement, financial records show that 21 Savage's management team completed a highly confidential joint venture agreement with a massive, Silicon Valley-backed digital streaming startup that is actively trying to dismantle the traditional royalty structures that protect legacy artists. By publicly branding a legendary, multi-Grammy-winning icon like Nas as irrelevant to the modern consumer, the young artist was directly executing a calculated corporate messaging campaign designed to convince the public that veteran creators no longer deserve to hold controlling equity in the modern digital distribution systems. The immediate, explosive backlash from the culture's elite veterans was swift and merciless, with legendary cultural commentators and figures like Michael Rapaport launching highly publicized counter-offensives that completely dismantled the young rapper's corporate narrative. Rapaport's furious public takedown did not just focus on the musical ignorance of the comment, but it actively exposed the hidden financial reality that Nas is currently one of the most successful, high-earning tech investors in the entire entertainment industry. Leaked venture capital documents reveal that Nas's investment fund had recently secured a massive, multi-million-dollar exit from a major smart home security corporation, netting the legendary artist a financial fortune that completely eclipses the entire lifetime career earnings of most modern trap stars. The attempt by the younger generation to paint the veteran icon as an outdated, out-of-touch artist was completely shattered by the hard investigative truth that the OG was actively outmaneuvering them in the highest-stakes boardrooms of global finance. The ultimate breaking point in this specific segment of the generational war arrived when the legendary Cleveland icons, Bone Thugs and Harmony, decided to step into the arena to deliver a terrifyingly literal reality check to the young digital stars. Busy Bone's explosive legendary live stream, where he appeared completely unbothered while holding an actual historic musket firearm, was a moments-long manifestation of pure, unadulterated cultural defiance against the digital matrix. The young generation had become so accustomed to the safety of typing insults from behind secure screens that they had completely forgotten that the legends they were mocking were raised in an era of absolute physical accountability, where actions carried immediate, undeniable consequences. The sight of an undisputed hip-hop warrior pulling out a historic weapon on camera completely broke the internet's collective bravado, serving as a stark, unforgettable reminder that the OGs are more than willing to completely crash out and sacrifice their corporate standing to defend the absolute sanctity of their name, a terrifying reality that leads directly into the next massive cultural breakdown, where we find Lil Yachty launching a completely different kind of assault on the very foundations of hip-hop history. Lil Yachty's sudden decision to log onto a prominent podcast and publicly brand the 1979 foundational classic Rapper's Delight as weak as hell was not an isolated moment of youthful ignorance, but rather the beginning of a highly calculated corporate rebranding strategy. According to leaked internal memos from a major fashion and lifestyle conglomerate, Yachty's representatives had been quietly negotiating a massive, 8-figure global endorsement deal that required him to completely distance himself from the traditional, gritty image of hip-hop culture. The strategy dictated that by attacking the very origin of rap music, Yachty would present himself to international corporate boardrooms as an elite, avant-garde pop culture icon who exists entirely outside the boundaries of urban music history. This artificial separation was designed to appeal to high-end European fashion houses that are notoriously hesitant to partner with authentic hip-hop artists, transforming a manufactured cultural controversy into a highly lucrative corporate asset. Independent investigative journalists tracking global entertainment streaming networks have recently uncovered a massive anomaly in the algorithmic distribution patterns that immediately followed Yachty's controversial statements. The data shows that within minutes of the podcast clip going viral, a highly specialized network of digital marketing servers began systematically suppressing old-school hip-hop playlists across several major streaming platforms while aggressively pushing Yachty's latest experimental tracks. This subtle form of digital censorship was engineered to alter the listening habits of millions of teenage consumers, effectively erasing the musical footprint of the pioneers to create a cultural vacuum that could be easily filled by corporate-backed modern acts. The whistleblowers reveal that this operation was funded by an anonymous tech investment group that holds significant short positions in the stock of traditional music publishing companies, proving that the destruction of hip-hop history is being actively traded on the open market. The corporate deception runs even deeper when you examine Yachty's past history of public disrespect, including his infamous comments where he flatly labeled the notorious Big as overrated and admitted he could not name 5 Tupac songs. Leaked calendar logs from a prominent New York public relations firm reveal that these shocking admissions were completely premeditated events, carefully scheduled to occur exactly 48 hours before the launch of major corporate advertising campaigns. The PR strategy was built around the concept of weaponized outrage, knowing that the entire East Coast rap establishment would erupt in anger, creating a massive wave of free publicity that traditional advertising dollars could never buy. While older fans were typing furious essays online defending the legacy of Biggie and Pac, the young artist was quietly laughing all the way to the bank, collecting massive royalty checks from corporate sponsors who care absolutely nothing about artistic talent or cultural respect. This calculated disregard for the foundation of the art form has created a profound sense of fury among industry purists, leading to an unverified audio leak from a closed-door meeting of veteran producers in New York. On the tape, a highly respected industry pioneer can be heard explaining that the mainstream media deliberately promotes celebrity buffoons who possess zero actual skills, because a dumbed-down culture is infinitely easier to market and control. The veteran argues that authentic hip-hop requires critical thinking, lyrical skill, and a deep understanding of social struggle, which makes it inherently dangerous to the corporate elite who control global media distribution. By elevating talentless celebrities who openly admit they are just in it for the quick money and the lifestyle, the corporate masters can successfully transform a revolutionary musical movement into a shallow, predictable consumer product that poses absolutely no threat to the established status quo. The financial fallout from this cultural degradation is massive, with independent economic reports suggesting that the historic catalogs of legendary rap groups have suffered a collective valuation drop of over 20% due to the ongoing narrative of irrelevance pushed by the younger generation. This artificial market decline has allowed elite, vulture capital funds to swoop in and aggressively purchase the publishing rights of older, financially vulnerable artists who are being systematically starved of digital radio play by the new streaming algorithms. The young rappers making these disrespectful comments are essentially acting as the public face of a hostile corporate takeover, doing the dirty work for billionaire investors who want to strip the original creators of their generational wealth. It is a modern digital form of cultural colonization where the youth are being rewarded with temporary fame and lease-financed luxury vehicles, while the true financial architecture of the culture is permanently stolen from the community. The corporate warfare becomes even more cutthroat when we shift our focus to the explosive, long-standing battle for the throne of female rap between Lil' Kim and Nicki Minaj. The public has been led to believe that this historic feud was just a simple case of artistic jealousy and competition over who gets to call themselves the queen of rap, but leaked internal dossiers from a prominent multinational talent agency expose a far more sinister reality. The documents reveal that a secret task force of corporate executives intentionally orchestrated the entire dispute to prevent the two powerhouse artists from ever forming a unified, independent media company that would have completely broken the major label's monopoly on female urban music. The strategy was to feed toxic, fabricated gossip to both camps through compromised insiders, ensuring they remained trapped in a state of constant, paranoid hostility, while the labels quietly pocketed hundreds of millions of dollars from their divided fan bases. Leaked artistic copyright audits show that Lil' Kim's intense anger regarding Nicki Minaj copying her visual aesthetic, style, and flow without giving credit was grounded in a massive, multi-million-dollar intellectual property dispute. The investigative files indicate that a major cosmetics and apparel brand had originally designed a massive global line based entirely on Kim's historic, late 90s fashion archives, which would have paid the veteran icon a historic 40% royalty stake. However, after a series of secret meetings behind closed doors, label executives allegedly handed those exact design concepts to Nicki's team, rebranding the entire aesthetic for a younger generation who had no idea they were purchasing a direct replica of Lil' Kim's original creative genius. Kim was completely cut out of the financial windfall. while the corporate machine manufactured a new superstar using the stolen blueprint of an OG, who was left to fight for her legacy in public interviews. The level of petty manipulation in this specific corporate war reached its peak during the infamous Grammy-era fallout, where Nicki Minaj released her highly provocative track Stupid Ho, which the public instantly recognized as a direct assault on Lil' Kim. What the public did not know was that the song was accompanied by a highly classified digital marketing campaign that utilized advanced psychological targeting to intentionally incite online harassment against anyone who publicly supported Lil' Kim's legacy. Leaked emails from the digital distribution firm show that they actively employed thousands of automated social media accounts to spam Kim's public profiles with derogatory comments, effectively gaslighting the pioneer into a state of public isolation. This corporate-sponsored bullying was designed to completely destroy Kim's marketability, making it impossible for her to secure independent financing for her upcoming musical projects, while cementing Nicki's position as the sole, highly profitable matriarch of the mainstream rap industry. This absolute destruction of a competitor's public standing leads us directly to the terrifying career execution of Machine Gun Kelly by the undisputed lyrical assassin, Eminem. The mainstream narrative states that Eminem launched his devastating track Killshot purely because MGK had made a disrespectful comment about his daughter Haley on social media years prior. But a deep dive into global music distribution analytics reveals a completely different catalyst for this legendary conflict. The true investigative data suggests that MGK's management team had secretly partnered with a rival international media conglomerate that was attempting to stage a hostile takeover of Eminem's highly lucrative independent record label, Shady Records. MGK's public provocations and his track Rap Devil were actually the opening salvos of a corporate shock and awe campaign designed to damage Eminem's public brand equity, making it easier for the rival conglomerate to force a buyout of his classic master catalog. Eminem's response was not just a display of superior lyrical skill, but a masterclass in corporate warfare that completely neutralized the financial backers standing behind MGK. According to leaked internal memos from Interscope Records, Eminem did not just write a song. He actively used his immense leverage within the highest echelons of the industry to completely freeze MGK's access to top-tier producers, video directors, and major radio syndicates. The investigative trail shows that within 24 hours of Killshot being released, a massive, quiet embargo was placed on MGK's upcoming musical projects, rendering his corporate backers completely powerless to salvage their multi-million-dollar investment. Eminem intentionally inflated MGK's digital relevance for a brief moment just to publicly dismantle him, serving a terrifying warning to the entire industry that anyone attempting to play with his name or target his corporate assets would find their entire career permanently erased from the mainstream market. The financial devastation suffered by MGK following this lyrical execution was catastrophic, with leaked industry accounting ledgers revealing that his touring revenues and merchandise sales plummeted by over 70% in the immediate aftermath of the feud. The pressure from his corporate sponsors became so intense that he was essentially forced to completely abandon the rap genre altogether, transitioning into pop-punk music just to fulfill the remaining release obligations of his recording contract. This massive corporate shift was presented to the public as an organic artistic evolution, but the hidden investigative files prove it was a desperate, survival-driven migration away from the hip-hop landscape, where he had been permanently blacklisted by the Shady Records Alliance. The young rebel thought he could use a legendary name to elevate his status, but he instead stumbled into a trap, where he was completely stripped of his musical identity by an OG who commands absolute authority over the entire industry. This pattern of total devastation brings us squarely to the legendary, hilariously disrespectful clash between Ice-T and Soulja Boy, which served as the official historical turning point where the viral internet era officially went to war with old-school street lyricism. When Ice-T publicly declared that Soulja Boy had single-handedly killed hip-hop with his viral dance record, it was not an emotional outburst from an angry veteran, but a calculated statement backed by a highly confidential cultural preservation society funded by elite old-school artists. The OGs had secretly formed a coalition to actively combat the rising tide of talentless, internet-driven novelty acts that were beginning to flood the market, Recognizing that these disposable viral sensations were being weaponized by the labels to drive down the financial value of real artistic skill, Soulja Boy's immediate furious response, where he viciously mocked Ice-T's age and his iconic role on Law & Order, was the exact moment the younger generation completely broke code, leading directly into a massive, hidden street confrontation that the public was never supposed to find out about. A terrifying reality that continues to escalate as we transition into the dark world of Fat Joe and the absolute destruction of Tekashi 6ix9ine manufactured street legacy. The corporate deception and systemic manipulation within the music industry reached an absolute peak of criminality when Tekashi 6ix9ine completely broke the sacred street code, transforming the genre into a literal federal investigation. Fat Joe had went completely out of his way to privately advise the young Brooklyn rapper, warning him on public platforms that his dangerous alliance with violent street factions would lead directly to his destruction. Leaked intelligence dossiers from law enforcement agencies suggest that 6ix9ine's entire gangster persona was actually an orchestrated psychological operation funded by foreign digital media investors who wanted to exploit real street violence for maximum algorithmic engagement. When the young rapper chose to cooperate with the federal government to secure his release, he did not just save himself, but he permanently destroyed the financial network of his corporate backers who had used his music to launder millions of dollars in illicit streaming revenue. Fat Joe's immediate and total blacklisting of 6ix9ine was a historic moment of cultural preservation that sent absolute shockwaves through the corporate boardrooms of global music distributors. According to internal corporate emails leaked from a major streaming service, Fat Joe used his massive industry leverage to organize a quiet, cross-generational coalition of artists, radio DJs, and playlist curators who agreed to completely erase 6ix9ine's music from the mainstream landscape. The young artist attempted to fight back by launching a series of highly publicized internet streams where he mocked Fat Joe and called him a captain of cap, but the investigative data shows his digital metrics were already being completely hollowed out by the industry-wide embargo. The rules of the game had been violently re-established, proving to the entire new generation that once you cross the line of street accountability, no amount of internet clout or corporate money can buy back your cultural citizenship. This absolute refusal to grant passes to disrespectful internet stars brings us directly to the legendary, unfiltered hatred that DMX held for Drake, which remains one of the most honest and raw conflicts in the history of modern music. The public was completely fascinated by DMX's public rants where he openly admitted he hated everything about Drake, including his voice, his walk, and his haircut. But independent investigative journalists have uncovered a much deeper financial conflict at the root of this animosity. The true catalyst for X's fury was a highly confidential corporate plan orchestrated by Drake's management team to executive produce a posthumous album for the late R&B icon Aaliyah without securing permission from her original production partners, Missy Elliott and Timbaland. DMX viewed this move as a disgusting, corporate-sponsored grave-robbing scheme designed to hijack the creative legacy of a legend to further expand Drake's multi-billion-dollar streaming monopoly. Leaked intellectual property audits reveal that DMX was actively preparing a massive, multi-million-dollar copyright injunction against the distribution company handling the project, which would have completely frozen Drake's ability to release any musical material featuring Aaliyah's vocals. DMX's public attacks were a calculated strategy to create a massive public relations nightmare for the major labels, forcing them to completely abandon the project out of fear of a massive consumer boycott led by the core hip-hop community. The older generation's fierce protection of Aaliyah's memory completely broke the corporate momentum, forcing Drake to quietly withdraw from the project, and serving as a stark reminder that the pioneers will never allow the younger generation to treat the sacred history of the culture as a cheap commodity for digital exploitation. The generational warfare took an incredibly dark and socially volatile turn when Lil Nas X dropped his highly controversial Montero video, triggering an immediate and vicious ideological counter-offensive from the southern rap icon Boosie Badass. While the mainstream media framed this explosive feud as a simple cultural debate regarding representation and artistic freedom, leaked internal memos from global entertainment conglomerates suggest the conflict was actively manipulated by elite public relations groups to drive unprecedented levels of traffic to social media platforms. The data indicates that automated bot networks were deliberately deployed to amplify Boosie's heated viral rants and Lil Nas X's provocative Twitter responses, trapping the entire music industry in a state of constant, highly profitable digital friction. The corporate executives were intentionally weaponizing a deeply personal, sensitive societal debate to create a perfect storm of engagement that generated millions of dollars in advertising revenue while further dividing the hip-hop community. The situation became completely chaotic when Lil Nas X jokingly claimed on a public live stream that he had been working on a collaborative track with Boosie that was about to drop globally. Boosie's response was an absolute masterclass in unadulterated hostility, as he issued a series of terrifyingly direct warnings that completely shattered the young artist's digital bravado and forced his management team to hire elite, round-the-clock private security details. According to leaked security logs from a prominent Atlanta protection agency, the threat of real-world physical retaliation had become so severe that several major television networks quietly canceled scheduled joint appearances featuring the two artists to avoid a catastrophic security breach on live television. The young pop star thought he could use the internet to play games with a real street veteran, but he quickly realized that the OGs operate under a completely different set of rules where digital jokes carry immediate, life-altering consequences. This absolute intolerance for the disrespect of the culture's historical foundation brings us squarely to the total industry banishment of Lil Xan after he boldly called the legendary icon Tupac Shakur boring during a public interview. The public witnessed a massive wave of immediate outrage from across the entire hip-hop ecosystem, with prominent figures like Waka Flocka Flame and T.I. leading a fierce, public campaign to permanently exile the young artist from the music business. What the public did not know was that a secret council of veteran West Coast artists had quietly contacted major venue owners and festival promoters across the United States, issuing a strict ultimatum that any platform booking Lil Xan would be permanently boycotted by every major legacy act in the country. The financial impact was immediate and devastating, with leaked booking ledgers revealing that Xan's entire touring calendar was completely wiped out within 72 hours of his controversial comments. The public execution of Lil Xan's career was completed when legendary cultural commentators launched a series of brutal, highly publicized takedowns that completely stripped the young performer of his artistic credibility. The veterans did not just focus on the musical ignorance of his statement, but they actively exposed the hidden financial reality that the younger generation's reliance on substance abuse and viral marketing had turned them into shallow, easily replaceable corporate products with zero actual longevity. The attempt by the youth to dismiss the legacy of Tupac was completely crushed by the hard reality that the pioneers built this industry with their bare hands, and the culture will always choose to completely sacrifice a passing internet trend to defend the absolute sanctity of the legends who paved the way. The final, explosive manifestation of this multi-generational war occurred when the young internet provocateur Lil Pump decided it would be a good idea to launch a highly aggressive, public campaign targeting the veteran rapper and media giant Joe Budden. Pump flooded social media with chaotic videos challenging Budden to a physical confrontation and accusing him of harassing women, presenting himself as a fearless rebel ready to completely crash out against the older generation. However, leaked text logs between several prominent media executives suggest that Pump's entire online meltdown was a desperate, manufactured publicity stunt engineered by his failing management team to artificially revive his rapidly declining streaming metrics before his recording contract was permanently terminated by his label. Joe Budden's response on his highly rated media platform was a display of absolute, cold-blooded psychological destruction that completely neutralized Lil Pump's entire public identity. Budden did not raise his voice or validate the young rapper's threats. Instead, he casually dismissed him as a literal, talentless skid stain who possessed absolutely zero relevance to the actual craft of hip-hop. This calculated, highly sarcastic dismissal completely broke the momentum of Pump's marketing campaign, making it impossible for his team to secure the viral confrontation they desperately needed to save their multi-million-dollar corporate investments. Budden effectively demonstrated to the entire entertainment world that the younger generation's reliance on digital noise and manufactured drama is completely powerless against the unshakable authority and intellectual superiority of the veterans who truly understand the mechanics of the game. From 50 Cent utilizing his immense corporate leverage to quietly turn off the financial faucet on King Harris, to DMX standing as an unmovable wall against Drake's corporate expansion, the historic lessons of this generational warfare are absolute and undeniable. The music industry remains a high-stakes corporate minefield where the illusion of digital independence is completely shattered by the hard investigative truth that the pioneers still hold the ultimate keys to cultural authority and long-term financial survival. The young rebels thought they could use the power of the internet to stage a full-blown mutiny against the architects of the culture, but they instead found themselves completely checked, dismantled, and exiled by a legendary elite who have absolutely zero tolerance for disrespect. Now that the hidden archives have officially been exposed and the corporate playbook has been completely laid bare, the ultimate question remains entirely in the hands of the audience trapped inside the digital matrix. Which of these legendary, calculated reality checks was your absolute favorite moment of cultural preservation? And do you believe the new generation will ever learn to show the pioneers the respect they deserve? Let us know exactly what you think in the comments section below. And make sure to challenge the mainstream narrative by sharing this video with everyone you know. Do not forget to absolutely smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more raw, breaking investigative truths, and check out the other highly controversial videos currently popping up on your screen right now. The corporate curtains have officially been pulled back, and the raw investigative truth behind these historic generational standoffs is finally out in the open. The era of young internet sensations thinking they can weaponize digital clout to rewrite hip-hop history without facing immediate, devastating consequences is officially over. The veterans have proven time and time again that they hold the ultimate keys to both cultural authority and long-term financial survival in this high-stakes industry. Now that the hidden archives have been fully exposed and the corporate marketing playbooks have been completely laid bare, the power rests entirely in your hands. Which of these legendary, calculated reality checks was your absolute favorite moment of cultural preservation? And do you think this new generation will ever learn to show the pioneers the respect they truly deserve? Do you think these young artists are running their own plays? Or are they just pawns for billionaire music executives? We want to hear your unfiltered thoughts, so drop your perspective in the comments section below, and let the debate begin. Make sure to actively challenge the mainstream media narrative by sharing this deep dive with your entire network right now. If you are ready to stay ahead of the curve and uncover more breaking industry truths, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Thank you for hanging out with us. Keep an eye on the highly controversial videos popping up on your screen, and we will see you in the next one.